What's up everyone, Darcblade here bringing you a patch information video for The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. This is covering the patch 1.012, which was released today. Patch 1.12 was delayed from December, but it's now available for all systems that have The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt on it. It covers many areas, both for the original game and the expansion The Heart of Stone. However, there is little in this patch regarding the upcoming expansion Blood and Wine. Now, like with all patches for The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, CD Projekt Red have given us quite an extensive patch here, and in this video I'll try to go over all the major changes that have happened. Now, if you're only really interested in the highlights that this patch has brought us, then they introduced a number of general stability and performance improvements. They've also fixed a dozen of quest related issues, which are both major and minor fixes. It also decreases the chance of blurry screens occurring sometimes during the game. However, if you're interested in a more in-depth video of what was included with patch 1.12, then continue watching. So moving on, first going into the Heart of Stone DLC expansion. Firstly, the patch fixes issues whereby achievement titled Wild Rose Dethroned could not be completed. They fixed an interaction on the pickaxe in the quest titled Enchanting Quality Has Its Price. They fixed an issue in the majority of contexts whereby not all diagrams could be collected in the quest titled From a Fireless Distant Store. Next, they fixed a rare issue whereby some players were prevented from spreading smoke throughout all the rooms in the crypt during the quest Dead Man's Party. The next fix is to an issue whereby book merchants named Marcus TK Hodgson failed to appear in the market square in Novigrad. Next is a fix to another rare issue whereby some Knights of the Flaming Rose in the quest titled Open Sesame in the Heart of Stone expansion could not be killed. This patch also introduces for the Heart of Stone numerous improvements to the game's general performance. The next fix is to an issue whereby Treasure Hunt titled The Drakenborg Redemption remained in the journal despite completing all of its objectives. The next fix is to an issue whereby swapping the enchanted gear within inventory granted permanent bonuses to statistics. The next is another fix to a treasure hunt called the Royal Air Force, where it remained in your journal despite completing all of the objectives. The next issue fixed is where players could not eavesdrop on guards during the quest titled Witcher's Seasonings in the Heart of Stone expansion. They then addressed an issue whereby some players could not talk to Shani at certain junctures of the quest titled Dead Man's Party. Also with the Heart of Stone expansion, they've introduced a series of minor difficulty balance tweaks across all difficulty levels. I don't know if this means that the Heart of Stone was too hard or too easy for some players, but whatever the case be, this has now addressed it. Next, they fixed a rare issue where the inebriation effect would persist on screen after the quest titled Dead Man's Party was completed. The next fix is to an issue whereby phase titled Enchanting startup costs would remain in the journal after Enchanter was paid the relevant amount. They've also fixed incorrect stamina bonuses granted for Comparison or Lament in New Game Plus mode. They've also fixed incorrect mesh appearing on the Viper School Sword in New Game Plus mode. So as you can see, there's been numerous fixes to the quests in the Heart of Stone expansion. I personally actually didn't experience many errors or bugs during my Heart of Stone playthrough, but if you came across any, then I hope these fixes will address the issues you have. Next, moving on to talk about the DLCs. The DLCs being the free DLCs that CD Projekt Red gave us. First, there have been fixes to previously unlootable containers within Kaer Morhen's watchtower during the quest titled Scavenger Hunt Wolf School Gear. I personally actually did come across this and had to reload my game. I'm glad that this is now fixed. Next, they fixed rare issues whereby a doll could not be picked up during the quest titled Where the Cat and Wolf Play. And lastly, for the DLCs, they fixed a specific users issues with the werewolf in the quest titled Contract Skellige's Most Wanted. Now, moving away from DLCs and expansion packs, we're going to move on to the changes and fixes that have come with the main game, the core game of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. The first is to the gameplay changes and fixes. Firstly, they fixed an issue whereby some toxic gas clouds failed to poison or deal damage to player characters. Next is an issue fixed whereby scabbard meshes were missing from witchers other than Geralt. Next, they fixed a rare issue whereby performing attacks near friendly NPCs resulted in unintended regeneration of stamina. Next, they fixed an exploit involving the alchemy skill titled Tissue Transmutation. Next, they addressed an issue whereby quick slot could disappear if game difficulty level was changed during combat. The next fix is to an exploit involving the superior White Roughard's decoction and the skill named Delayed Recovery. The patch also fixes an issue whereby the skill named Flood of Anger incorrectly enabled sign trees and enhanced sign intensity permanently. It also introduces fixes whereby special bonuses granted by Superior Blizzard will take effect only when slow motion is triggered. The patch also fixes a number of issues affecting potions called the Short Decoction. They've also addressed the rare issue whereby some mini-bosses could become immortal under certain circumstances. And lastly, they fixed a misleading message being displayed when players attempted to cast a sign during combat while enveloped by a cloud, resulting in a detonation from a Dimaterium bomb. So as you can see, there have been numerous gameplay changes and fixes as a result of patch 1.12. A lot of them seem to address exploits with the talent trees and that, which would upset some players. Next, we're going to be moving on to the GUI fixes and changes with patch 1.12. Firstly, it fixes an issue whereby items in merchant stores could not be compared to currently equipped items. Next, it fixes an exploit whereby some items, mainly runes and glyphs, could be upgraded indefinitely. It also introduces UI elements whereby herb names will now be displayed above the interactive herb, so you'll have some idea of which herb you're going to be picking, if you didn't already know by the shape of the herb. Next, the patch fixes issues whereby keys, controls were not unbound from current settings when attempted. Next, it addresses an issue whereby the toggle HUD button would not always work correctly during set scenes. The patch also introduces enhancements whereby ingredients required for a pinned formula and in possession of a merchant are now highlighted in that said merchant's shop screen. The patch also improves quest tracking by enabling tracking of objectives across different game regions. There's been fixes to issues whereby the Witcher medallion and statistic bar could disappear if the game difficulty was changed during combat. The patch also introduces enhancements on PC systems whereby weapon and armor repair kits can be now applied to said items via a drag and drop system. And finally, with the gameplay, they fixed issues on PC systems whereby toggling HUD did not work correctly on certain keyboard configurations. So as you can see, there's been a few minor GUI changes here, nothing groundbreaking, but it is ironing out the game even more. Next, we're going to be moving on to changes with the living world, basically the environment which The Witcher 3 is set in. Firstly, it fixes an issue whereby the treasure hunt titled Shortcut would not complete correctly. It also addresses an issue with destroyed monster nests respawning after a set time. Next, it addresses a rare issue whereby shop screens would not open correctly for travelling merchants. And finally, it fixes an issue whereby the NPCs failed to return to the abandoned settlement named the Ruined Inn. So there's been a few minor fixes here. I personally am a little bit sad to see that the monster nests that respawned are now gone. Next, we're moving on to talk about the quests that have been fixed and changed as a result of patch 1.12. This is quite an extensive list, so bear with me. Firstly, they fixed an issue whereby some human foes could have emptied vitality bars and thus could not be killed. There's a fix to a rare issue where some players could not talk to Fergus during the quest titled Master Armourers. Next, they fixed an issue whereby a monster disappeared incorrectly during the quest titled Contract Phantom of the Trade Route. The patch also restores the notice regarding the quest titled Races Crow's Perch to the notice board at that said game location. The patch also fixes premature display of objectives involving placements of the book on the pedestal in the quest titled The Witch's Forge. The patch also fixes another rare issue whereby the relevant rewards were not granted on the completion of the contract, The Creature of the Oxenfurt Forest. Next, there is a fix to the issue whereby encounters with the caged wyvern near Oxenfurt was inactive. Next, the patch fixes a number of issues with the blacksmith in Mulberry Dell in the quest titled Person in Distress. Next is a fix to an issue whereby the quest titled Novigrad Closed City 2 would incorrectly be tagged as failed if completed prior to the installation of patch 1.10. I actually experienced this one and I'm glad it's now sorted. Next, the patch introduces balance improvements whereby prices of goods throughout Skellige drop by 10% after Geralt kills the giant and agrees to take full credit for the kill. in the quest titled The Lord of Undvik. Next, the patch fixes issues whereby quests titled The Nobleman's Statuette and The Soldier's Statuette were incorrectly and prematurely deactivated and could not be completed. Next, the patch fixes incorrect map pins in the treasure hunt titled Freya Be Praised. Next, and a funny one here, is the patch fixes rare issues with technical glitches as a result of older patch fixes which have failed to work correctly. So there's a little bit of a patchception there. Next, the patch addresses rare issues whereby players could not talk to Hattori after completing the quest titled Of Sword and Dumplings. Next, there's a fix to another rare issue whereby Nidus would fail to appear in Novigrad during the quest titled Black Pearl. Next, a fix to the treasure hunt titled Temerian Valuables would not be completed correctly. The patch also fixes a rare issue whereby the quest titled Get Junior would remain active in your journal after the game was completed. Next, it fixes an issue where some character glossary entries were displayed incorrectly in the game. And finally, with the quests, it fixes an issue whereby the quest titled Free Spirit could not be completed at all. So as you can see, there have been numerous quest fixes, quite a substantial amount here. Quest bugs are rampant with open world games, and it's good to see that CD Projekt Red are addressing quite a few of them with each patch. However, this more than likely means that not all quest bugs have been addressed just yet. Hopefully, if you come across any bugged quests, then maybe they've been fixed as a result of this patch. Anyway, moving on to the last few sections of patch 1.12. Firstly, with the visuals. The first fix is appearance on screen of unwanted visual artifacts after Geralt was teleported to a new location. And finally, it improves the transition between distinct scenes and gameplay sequences. There's a fix with the code of the game. Basically, it fixes an issue whereby launching The Witcher 3 on systems running Windows OS discarded sRGB settings in users' ICC profiles. And finally, a few miscellaneous fixes here. Firstly, they fixed rare issues whereby NPC animations would play back at reduced speeds after the quest titled On Thin Ice. And finally, it fixes an issue whereby the quest titled Faithful Friends would incorrectly remain tagged as failed after the quest titled Something End, Something Begins was completed. So as you can see, patch 1.12 is quite a substantial patch here. It may not be the biggest patch that The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt has received, but it's still quite hefty. It also irons out a lot of bugs. There doesn't seem to be anything game changing with this patch or new elements or mechanics, but it definitely seems to be addressing a lot of issues that the game still has, unfortunately. This patch is also probably paving the way for the expansion Blood and Wine, which unfortunately we have no release date for yet, but I'm hoping for it's going to be in the first half of 2016. Anyway, has this patch addressed any issues that you had with the game? I'd like to hear down below in the comments. Also, if you're interested, I'll leave a link down in the description below where you can go check out the full patch notes for patch 1.12. Anyway, I hope this video has helped or at least informed, and until next time, I've been Darcblade bringing you a patch information video to patch 1.12 on The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.